Hey there, I'm Chris Hogg, and I am live at Inventures sitting down with Sam Jenkins, the CEO of Punchcard. Sam, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me in the box.
The cube, the box, yeah. I want to talk about your business. You live in a world of extreme transformation all the time, but for those who don't know Punchcard, give us sort of the highlights of what the business does.
Yeah, you bet. So we see ourselves as a digital transformation studio. And that takes a lot of different roles for our clients. Often we're in the role of innovator. Sometimes we're an instigator. It generally always involves technology. And so what this means is we're building software or digital platforms that help organizations be maybe a little bit more competitive or react a little bit differently in this changing world that we live in.
You're hands-on though, so developers are building stuff. It's not just a consultancy.
It's mostly building stuff. I think we get to consult through doing very actively at Punchcard. So our team is made up of, it's a multidisciplinary team made up of developers, UX designers, and product managers. And then people like me helping to kind of keep the cars on the rails. But fundamentally, it is about building things for Canadian enterprises and scale-ups.
So your home base is Edmonton. You've got a team across Canada?
That's right. So I live in Edmonton. My business partner lives in Penticton. And there are Punchcardigans who they call home in, and I'm going to miss something along the way here, Victoria, Vancouver, Penticton, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, Barrie, Kitchener-Waterloo, Toronto, Ottawa, and probably a couple other small and larger communities in between.
So for a lot of folks who watch this segment, we get a lot of questions on scaling, and you've been really successful at scaling a business that can sometimes be high touch. You have to have teams in extreme coordination over that many geographies, managing a remote workforce, which some companies still struggle with. How did you get here? How did you keep the wheels on?
I think that's a really good question, because in this interim, so Punchcard is we're in our 9th year going into our 10th. And so there have been a couple of moments of disruption along the way. Something happened in 2020 that that forced some different decision making. And even now, if we look at 2025, a lot of our business is down in the US. We've had to navigate what that uncertainty means for us as a firm, but also for our clients as well. And so I think working remote, or at least in a hybrid format in the way that we are, has been part of our secret sauce. It's meant that we've been able to work with talent that exists all across our country. And at the end of the day, I think talent is the thing that drives our culture. I mean, we do amazing things for our clients only because we have a team of amazing people doing things. But I think that does drive a big part of our value around making decisions around our culture. Mm-hmm. We've been able to scale because we have this tight-knit group of people who...
Tight-knit even though they're remote.
Especially because they're remote. We're able to attract talent of people who have families, who live in smaller communities, who bring some really, unique things to the table. And for that, we've been able to build a wonderful culture. Now, that has been hard work, right? I mean, I think when we're working remote, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are just digital. Mm-hmm. We bring people together for in-person work all the time. I call this a mix of both rituals and rhythms. So our rhythms, our regular rhythms that we enact to be able to work together are important, but the rituals that we live on a regular basis also drive some of that connectivity with our team. Now, that being said, our culture is important, but I would also say that our industry, like from a consulting services or a professional services perspective, we're undergoing, I would argue, the largest shift in how we deliver of the past 50 years.
And what does that practically look like? Because you're staring AI in the face. It's going to replace, in many industries, including our own, in media or in marketing and other stuff that I do. It's an existential threat, but there's also folks who are adopting it, that usability trying framework. When you look at that challenge ahead and where AI is going and the speed, like you and I chatted 6 months ago, and here we are today, 6 months later, and we're going to have a very different world conversation. Yeah. What does the challenge present for you, or where do you see the opportunity?
So if I go back a number of years ago to when we were establishing a 10-year vision for our organization, we knew that IP was going to be a part of where we needed to go. We couldn't just sell services to be able to create value. I think where we're at in the current kind of state of the world with AI being a part of that conversation, that is only reinforcing how important unique IP is going to be, and how important it is for us to be able to lean into what makes people unique, or what, how people can people, and how AI can AI. For us in our firm, it means that some roles are going to change. Microsoft released a paper a couple weeks ago around work trends and the kind of the future of work, and this nature of being able to not only have AI as a component of our team or using AI tooling, but it's almost like AI as teammates. And so we're restructuring how we establish our teams. We're restructuring how we deliver our work so that we can take advantage of this changing nature of the world around us. But I don't think this means that we automatically become more profitable. I think this is about rediscovering what our business strategy is going to look like.
Even as a leader, how do you go about restructuring when, unless you've got a crystal ball we should all know about, you have to plan for what's coming. How do you be agile and think about restructuring when you can't predict what's next?
Well, it means we're taking risks along the way, and I think as a firm, we've always been friendly with risk. In fact, our primary core value it centers around showing up and taking risks as a team, but certainly through the lens of both entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. It means we're going to get things wrong. Hopefully, we get things right more than we get them wrong. But it goes back to some advice that somebody gave me a number of years ago. A woman by the name of Melissa Dribble. She's an innovation consultant out of New York, and she repeated this phrase time and time again: "Small experiments with radical intent." That's how we live our lives at Punchcard. We take many small experiments and we learn from them in real time. It also means there's going to be some points of discomfort for our team, certainly for us as owners as well.
Is that part of the culture? They're just used to that?
I think so. I mean, we've been growing a lot, and so we've had to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is also a challenging spot for many people to be in. I think if we look at the world right now, that uncertainty is what drives a little bit of burnout, not only inside teams, but in the world at large. We're trying to do a better job of making sure that we're painting multiple futures for our team so that they can feel comfortable with some of the change that we're establishing.
What does it do for your hiring? Like, are you looking for new kinds of people to join as you scale and change?
There's two parts to that. One, we're setting expectations internally in terms of how roles will change. You've read some of the memos and emails that have come out from tech CEOs over the past couple of weeks. Yep. The only thing that is certain is that the way we'll be working will be changing, and so we're trying to establish new norms for people who work here at Punchcard. And on the other side, we're also establishing new roles, and that's to either move people inside Punchcard or to bring new talent from outside. We haven't stopped hiring. But we have started shifting around how we are building our teams and how we deliver value together.
Going back to your IP point, with the world of AI bolting on to consultancy, which you also do, your software development underpinnings or foundation, what kind of questions or where are businesses coming to you today to commercialize IP? Is there a new approach or a new focus that didn't exist maybe a few years ago?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing a lot more right now, I mean, the concept of vibe coding has become a bit of a story right now.
For those who don't know, vibe
coding is approaching developing something through the lens of just getting something done and effectively using non-technical approach to building a technical tool. That means there's lots of bubble gum, there's lots of Band-Aids. It's very, very MVP. And so we've tried to take some of that and apply it in a form of sprinting. Can we validate assumptions really, really quickly to be able to get a working prototype out the door in a faster time frame than ever before? And we did that early with, actually, when you and I talked about our Check the Label app. that was a vibe coded approach.
Scanning grocery or
that was
UPC codes to know if it's made in Canada.
That's right. Yeah. So we launched that in just shy of 48 hours. To me, that was an example of how can we leverage AI, leverage platform and framework to be able to validate a concept really, really quickly. And so we're trying to do that with a service product that we're calling Vibe Sprinting to help both entrepreneurs but also scale-ups understand how to use technology in a really meaningful way really quickly. And we're seeing that with many of our clients coming forward. In many cases, we're hearing from folks, well, I want to build or I need to build an AI tool for my business or to establish a new line of business. And we need to do it quickly because we don't know how the world is going to change around us. How can we use you as part of our framework to be able to make that happen?
From the buyer perspective, there would be an argument maybe that buying software before, you don't necessarily need to know how the sausage is made. Just give me the sausage and I'll go and use it. Yep. Is that changing? Like, does AI change the asks? Are you seeing leaders wanting to know how things work or how they should work? Because AI is still, even though it's adopted, there are lots of businesses using it. If we're in this optimization phase, I imagine a lot of leaders, they don't know what they don't know. So are you getting people showing up differently, and collaboration, has it changed?
I think that's a wonderful question because of two angles. One, I think there's a risk and liability component that the advent of AI is actually forcing conversation around. So business leaders or decision makers in organizations are understanding that there are different forms of risks associated with implementing technology. And as organizations, we need to be offsetting those risks with a higher degree of knowledge. And then on the flip side, I think because we're talking about AI more and more and more, I think folks are realizing that there's a risk to not adopt technology in meaningful ways. And that's why I'm so excited about digital transformation even for non-technical organizations. There's this realization that we can establish new business models, that we can create new value, and we can be more competitive in other markets by addressing technology in really meaningful ways. But I think this all comes down to awareness. Organizations today are far more aware that AI is going to change the business model, and they're far more aware that AI is going to change the risk associated with delivering that business model. I hope that by working with our clients, we can help them learn a little bit more and have a higher degree of awareness.
If we shift gears and go back to you as a leader and Punchcard as it scales going forward, you've seen a lot of waves of change. You said 9-10 years for Punchcard and eras of transformation and adoption, I imagine. Yeah. As you reflect on that, are there any big leadership lessons that you could share with others who are going down a complex journey in an always changing environment? Yeah.
So one of the lessons that I'm learning right now, which I guess it's the lesson of scale. When we established our business, my business partner and I were really fortunate, I would say. We have a wonderful partnership, and the Venn diagram of our competencies have a little bit of overlap, enough that there's respect, but not so much that we step on each other's toes. And so we were able to build a business together, and we were able to hire and begin to scale a little bit. The journey that I'm going through right now is scaling the things that I love doing beyond what I can do individually. And so as we're establishing our growth and sales and the infrastructure associated with getting the business to be a little bit more sustainable, I'm beginning to realize how important it is for us not to think just about optimization, but how important it is for us to talk about or think about resilience within the business. And I don't think I'm going to win the lottery anytime soon, but I'm trying to build a business that can withstand the threat of a founder leaving, enormous tariffs come from a trading partner, a pandemic that comes down unexpectedly. Because I think as business leaders, as people who are growing businesses or who are trying to build businesses that last the test of time, we really have to be focusing on resilience. And that means spending a little bit more time thinking about what are those points of potential failure within our organizations. I didn't spend enough time thinking about that early on. Now, one might say that we got lucky to be able to navigate some of these elements of uncertainty, but I think we would have had a stronger, more sustainable business if we had focused on resilience from the very beginning.
How does your team think about resilience? Do they see themselves as part of it, or is that a leadership trait? Like, there's a lot of organizations, top down, bottom up. it sounds like culture and with your dispersed team has been very deliberate from what I know of Punch Cardigans.
Yeah.
How do you build resilience with a team that might not think the same way as an owner entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think that's what's really important about that is, I think as owners, as leaders, as founders, however you want to call it, we definitely have to take the owner hat off and put the team hat on, just like anybody else. And we've made a conscious effort over the past number of years to really invest in leadership as a competency throughout the organization, recognizing that in many cases, leadership isn't a inherent skill, right? It's something that we actually have to build up, and it's built through experience, sometimes through failures, but often through successes. And so we've established, for example, at Punchcard, we've built out a program that we call Punchcard Academy in partnership with the team at Monarch, a Calgary-based startup, focusing on not only resilience, but focusing on leadership, on self-awareness.
It's workshop styles?
It's a number of modules that we've built out that is really focused on building a stronger team based on leaders, not only leaders from top down, but leaders from the bottom up. I think that's the future of our business. It's how can we build leaders from within, so that we can build either stronger elements of our business through a bigger portfolio of organizations supported by Punchcard, or stronger teams from within as well. The adage goes, you don't quit the organization, you quit a boss, right? And we've been so fortunate to have such a high degree of employee retention over these past couple of years. I recognize how much value, how much knowledge, how much competency is wrapped up in the people that make up Punchcard. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving the campsite a little bit cleaner when those folks decide to move on to their next opportunity. So
retention, strong teams definitely shine through. There will be some from a leadership perspective that don't always take the approach of constant upskilling, especially going as far as building an academy within. What do you want your teams to be able to do? Like, are you looking for them to do something differently? Do they need different leadership traits than maybe they have had to have before? Like, what should others reflect on when they hear you say that?
Yeah, so why that's the important question for right now is that the advent of AI is changing the skill set of the employee, right? We know that, especially in information worker roles, technology and tooling is going to become that the job will be done by the tooling, but people are still going to be an essential part of how the organization operates. And so leadership is going to take a different role. It's going to take the role of how do I combine my technology platforms and my people platforms in a way that's really meaningful. Organizations that will be sustainable not in 2025, but in 2030 and 2050 are the ones who will be investing in that kernel of humanity in their business, which is how can my people take on these roles, this mantle of leadership for the future?
Are you using AI on yourself in any ways? If you sell services and consulting, and maybe it's not all AI because I know it needs to be purpose deployed, but how are you eating your own dog food, to use the startup language, scale up language?
I mean, this has had to part of us in terms of to be able to advise our clients in meaningful ways that we do have to eat the dog food, and so it took a little while to get the entire organization on board. Because if you think about it, if you were a software developer and you did your work in a certain way for a long time, change would be difficult.
Yep.
Now, I've always, let's just say as a leader in my business, I've always had not a lot of extra time. And so I've had to lean into AI as a practice early on so that I could clone myself effectively.
Yep.
But we've started implementing more AI-based tools, both agentic and otherwise, within our organization to be able to reduce some risk, but also to expand our ability to be able to deliver. But to your point around, have I been using it on myself? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to the point where I'm leveraging it not only for how are we growing our business, but how I'm scaling myself. I engage.
You have Sam agents?
I have Sam agents, but also it's how I'm making sure that the work that I'm doing from a coaching perspective with my external coaches or with my peer mentors actually sticks. And so I'm making sure that my AI tools form a part of my, we'll say, reinforcement learning strategy going forward.
So final thoughts to the best of your ability. Where does Punchcard go next? If we meet again a year from now and talk about the change of your industry, what do you think you emerge as if you had to define what kind of business you are?
When we meet 12 months from now, I am certain that there's going to be a number of changes. I do think that our team is going to look different. And I don't think it's going to look smaller. I think it will look larger, but the ratio on our change will have our ratio on the team will have changed. We'll be investing more in product, in UX, and we'll say AI management as practices within the organization. Development will stay constant, but our output per developer will increase. The second thing that I think will be really important for us is this continued investment in IP. We have a number of internal platforms that we are building that leverage AI. We will continue investment on that, and those will form important parts of not only how we deliver, but how we earn revenue. And then I think we will start trending towards, or not start to trend towards, but I think we'll continue to invest in human and employee development. I think in order to be on the hockey stick that is going to happen over the next little while, learning is going to have to become part of the tool set of every single employee, not in our business, but in every business, and getting comfortable with continuous learning, or more comfortable with continuous learning.
Until we meet again in 12 months, Sam, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For more information on Punchcard, and if you're navigating a complex digital transformation strategy or approach, visit digitaljournal.com.